No.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, people want to take a seat. We'll go ahead and start. Sorry for how loud that is. Great. So, as socialists, we interrogate existing systems, exploring the ways capitalism creates and reinforces inequality and social control. Capitalism has no interest in confronting racism and poverty because it relies and perpetuates both. One of the most egregious examples of this is mass incarceration, and the death penalty is an extreme end of incarceration. It is a broken, racist framework. The reason is clear, because in capitalism, only certain lives matter. Weighed against that is the life of Kevin Cooper, a man whose case for innocence is overwhelming, and who is asking for a chance to prove that innocence. Kevin is poor, Kevin is Black, and shamefully, because of that, Kevin is fighting for his life, and it is a fight for Black lives to matter. Kevin Cooper is not a murderer, but he is speaking out against murder, whether at the hands of the people or even worse, the government. I'd like to introduce Aditi from DSA, Democratic Socialist America, to introduce Norm Heil, Kevin Cooper's attorney. Thank you.
All right, thank you all so much for being here today. We really appreciate you taking the time to come here to hear from Kevin Cooper. So in this case, all right, the evidence that points towards Kevin Cooper's innocence is overwhelming. When you walked in, we gave you a one-page sheet that summarizes and just scratches the surface of all of the evidence against him. If we were to go through all of the legal process and all of the reasons why we think he's innocent, that could easily take up the next 4 hours. So we encourage you to read the sheet if you want more details on why it is that we believe Kevin is innocent. But for now, I wanted to ask Kevin's lawyer, Norm Heil, who is an experienced litigator. He has a lot of experience taking cases up through the California Supreme Court and in through the federal appellate process to the U.S. Supreme Court. And he's been Kevin's lawyer throughout this fight. So I wanted to introduce Norm first and then ask Norm if you could tell us a little bit about how you got involved with this case and your relationship with Kevin.
Sure, and thank you for inviting me and for putting this together for Kevin. It's a terrific chance for us to get the word out, and we hope that you will be compelled by what you hear to speak out and to be active and get the governor to act on Kevin's clemency petition. The question was, how did I get involved? Well, my law firm was contacted in October of 2003 when Kevin Cooper's execution date had been scheduled for February 10th of 2004 by the Innocence Project at University of Santa Clara contacted us and said, will you try to save his life? And I was not involved at the time, and a team that was led by some of our lawyers in San Francisco on a pro bono basis took over trying to petition for a stay. And fortunately, 3 hours and 42 minutes before he was to be executed, the stay was upheld and Kevin was taken off execution protocol. That was in February of 2004. And at that point, my law firm came to me and said, you've done this before, that is done a federal habeas corpus petition in a death penalty case. Would you be willing to work on the case. And I said, okay. I'd been through one that took 15 years before that, so I knew I was in for the long haul. It's now been 14 years on Kevin's case, so it sort of defines my life to a certain extent. So we have represented Kevin pro bono since late 2003, and we have a lot of help from a lot of people. Kevin has a lot of supporters. Many of them are here. We have other law firms who have helped us. Obviously, we have been helped by the Habeas Corpus Resource Center, by the California Appellate Project, by the California Public Defender's Office. We have really had a lot of people who've contributed to it. But at any rate, that's how I got involved.
Great. Thank you so much for that explanation. And so I think what would be helpful for us now, and understanding that this legal case has gone on for 14 years, as you said, to get a snapshot in time of where we are now in the process of the appeals and the clemency petition, and what the ask is of the general public if they want to support Kevin.
All right. Obviously, Kevin's case has gone on since he was first arrested shortly after the crimes that he was convicted of were committed in 1983. So we're now talking about a period that lasts 35 years. He's been on death row since 1985, when his death sentence was handed down. The status at the moment is that Kevin has exhausted, through our various processes, all of his appeals in state court and in federal court. I'll put a footnote on that. In 2009, when we petitioned the Ninth Circuit for a rehearing en banc of his appeal after the most recent habeas corpus petition was lost before Judge Huff, Judge Fletcher of the Ninth Circuit wrote a dissent to the denial of the rehearing. It was joined in by 10 other Ninth Circuit judges. And if you want to read something that is an amazing document of what Kevin's case is about, you should read Judge Fletcher's 100-page opinion, where he sets out how Kevin was framed and how he is innocent. The opinion starts with these, what to us are famous words: the state of California may be about to execute an innocent man. And Judge Fletcher shows how Kevin was framed and how he is innocent. As I say, there were 11 judges, including Judge Fletcher, who signed that in some way or another, but we needed 13 votes. There's no case in the country or in the history of the country where that many appellate judges have said there's something wrong here. But that's where Kevin's appeals ran out. What we did after that was to file a petition with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, which is a human rights body that is centered in the Organization of American States. And in 2015, after a 4-year investigation of Kevin's case, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights issued a report which said that Kevin's human rights have been violated in 6 different ways. Due process violations, they found 8 due process violations within that. They found racial discrimination. They found an unfair appellate process. They found ineffective assistance of counsel. Unfortunately, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights does not control the state of California, so the state of California has simply ignored it. We petitioned Governor Schwarzenegger in 2010 for clemency in Kevin's case, and that was turned down, although Governor Schwarzenegger said that there were very disturbing facts that needed to be looked at. And he passed it on to Governor Brown. We filed a clemency petition 2 years ago, almost to the day, with Governor Brown, saying this man is innocent. And we asked for something which is, I think, unique in clemency petitions. I've never seen it before. We didn't say, pardon Kevin. We didn't say even commute his sentence to life without parole. We said, grant a reprieve, there'll be no execution until an innocence investigation is done to determine if he's innocent. And if he's innocent, you can pardon him. And if there's any question about his innocence, grant him a new trial. Heard a word. That's where we sit at the moment. Now, we have petitioned the governor with letters from all sorts of what people that we feel will be influential for purposes of a governor. The president of the American Bar Association wrote to the governor and said, please grant this clemency petition. That's never been done in the history of the American Bar Association. We have two former California Supreme Court justices who have written to the governor saying, you must grant this clemency petition. We have a former Attorney General of the state of California, John Vandekamp, who wrote to the governor, you must act on this clemency petition. We have letters from the law school deans. We have letters from some of the most important people in this field, including Brian Stevenson of the Equal Justice Initiative, to the governor saying, please act on this clemency petition. And again, we're not asking for the governor, even in the petition, to let Kevin out of jail. All we're saying is investigate this case because innocence is so obvious. And when you have done that, then you can either pardon him or grant him a new trial if there's any question. Now, the big thing that we've asked for in the clemency petition is to do forensic testing that we think will prove that Kevin is innocent. The reason we haven't done that forensic testing is because the state, through the Attorney General's office and the San Bernardino County District Attorney's office, has possession of the evidence we want to test and refuses to test the evidence for DNA and for other ways of testing forensic evidence. And it sort of raises the question, what don't you want to know about the truth? Why isn't the truth the most important thing here? Isn't that what justice is about? Not holding on to your conviction at all costs. But that is unfortunately the way this case has gone. They won't let go. Now, I'll just comment here as to why that is. I think, and this is my opinion, there are too many people who would be incredibly embarrassed if it was shown forensically that Kevin is innocent. There are too many people whose careers have been benefited because Kevin is on death row and may be soon executed. There are too many people who would have egg on their faces. But that is the way these things go. And you see case after case where exonerations occur, where it took 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and the reason it took that long was because the prosecution refused to allow the truth to come out. And it was only when it was brought out over their objection, almost over their dead bodies, that people were exonerated. I like to just say one thing about the racial aspect of this case. As I said, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights found that there was racial bias in every part of this prosecution and every part of this case. Kevin is African American. The family who was murdered was white. And we know that there was an absolute rush to convict this black man instead of the people who the sole surviving witness of the case identified as 3 white or Mexican men. every step of this case is a showing of how our system basically is so racially discriminatory that we should be ashamed. And if you have any question about that, just recently, in 2016, there were 5 exonerations off death row. We're now at 160 for the last 25 years. Think about that, 160 people who've been proven to be innocent who were convicted and sentenced to death. Well, the 5 people who were exonerated last year, 4 of them were African American. And recent studies done by the Death Penalty Resource Center shows that the number of exonerations for people of color is off the charts higher than for white people. Why is that? Because people of color get wrongfully convicted. So, what we are hoping to do is to continue to write to the governor, petition him to act on the clemency petition, to say, yes, we should find out once and for all, is Kevin innocent or not? And if he is innocent, he should be pardoned and set free. And if there's any question at all, then he should be given a new trial. All of the evidence that the California Supreme Court relied upon in its 1991 decision in this case, upholding Kevin's conviction, has been discredited. And if we had 2 or 3 hours, I could take you through it. But it's all been discredited. So the whole basis for the California Supreme Court's decision in this case doesn't exist anymore. But we need to get the governor to act because, as I'm sure everybody is aware, the machinery of death is being reinstituted as a result of Prop 66. And Kevin will be among the first who will be subject to execution as soon as they can clear the way with all the litigation that's going on over lethal injection. He was among the top 5 to be executed in 2010, and I'm sure he's in the top 5, if not the top 3 now, if they do resume executions.
Great, thank you so much for that. And all of you received on your way in a postcard. If you feel so inclined to write to the governor, there is space on the back for you to fill it out. Please add your name and your address so that Governor Brown knows that you are writing from California, that you are his constituent, and that you are asking him to please grant the clemency petition. We'll hand out pens in a minute so people can do that. Also, if you want to sign the letter to Governor Brown asking him, add your name to it, there's a laptop in the back over there. On your way out, we have the website open and you can sign it online. So there are a few different ways for people to act today after you hear from him in order to make your voice heard. And for the postcards, if you just leave them with us at the end, we'll be delivering them directly to Governor Brown, so you don't need to mail them yourselves or anything like that. So please do fill out the card if you're so inclined. We do believe it'll make a difference. And tell all your friends, tell your family. This case is very compelling. The more you read about it, the more you'll see how much there is and how obvious it is that Kevin is innocent and that he was framed, and it was police and prosecutor misconduct that went completely unchecked. And as Norm said, this is not individual to just Kevin. We know that this is a systemic problem. It doesn't stop with Kevin. It's just his case is emblematic and happens to be one of the more egregious examples of how our criminal justice system is racist and is broken, and we need everyone really to start paying attention to it so that we can make sure that we can get justice for Kevin, but also get justice for people who are like him. And that's something that Kevin understands. I also encourage you all to read Alex Post's piece in the Phoenix about Kevin organizing against the death penalty from his death cell. He knows that this fight is bigger than him. And Norm, if you could tell us a little more about Kevin's activism from within prison and just something about him that stands out to you the most, I think that would be helpful.
Certainly. Kevin has been speaking at events like this as part of a number of organizations against the death penalty. And obviously he does it at his risk of having the prison retaliate against him for doing it. But he has been steadfast in doing so. Kevin has been a model prisoner for over the last 32 years at San Quentin. He has not had a single bad write-up. And he has become a very prolific painter, and his paintings were featured in a recent exhibition called Windows on Death Row that toured the world and showed how people on death row are expressing themselves through their paintings and their writings. He has also been writing essays. He recently has had 2 of his essays appear in the online publication Truthdig. And if you go to Truthdig and search under Kevin Cooper, you'll see these essays that he wrote. One specifically about the fact that we just passed another African American Day in the U.S. and a celebration, and talking about how the African Americans are really being targeted by our criminal justice system. So those are the types of things he's been doing. He writes, he paints, he speaks like this all over, and I think you'll find it very compelling to hear his voice today. I wish we could see him in person. One thing I'll just say before he calls in, and I understand that this will be frustrating. He's calling in on a line from San Quentin, and about every 2 or 3 minutes, there will be an interruption where there'll be a recorded message saying this is a recorded conversation from San Quentin. And so you just have to wait until that's over, and then he'll come right back on. It won't get in the way, but bear in mind that everything that he says and every question that you may ask or something like that is being recorded by the CDCR, California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. We don't know what they do with these things as far as these types of presentations, because he's done a number of them, and so far they have not done anything. But I always find it a little difficult when I talk to him on the phone as his attorney. It should be an attorney-client communication, and it should be privileged, and it should not be anybody listening, but they're recording it. Kevin, I know, is going to make a short statement at the beginning, which I know will be compelling, and then he'll take questions. The one thing I would just say to you is he is very open to discussing most things, but if you get deep into the facts of this case, I may object as his lawyer. Not that he has anything to hide, but it's just since it's being recorded, I'd like to think about what it is that he's going to say. But anything else is you should feel free to ask him, and he'll determine how to answer it. And he's incredibly articulate, as you'll see.
Great. So we'll have Kevin will be dialing in here in about 4 minutes, and then for the Q&A, if you do have a question once he's done speaking, just raise your hand. We'll come around. You'll have to come up here to the mic where the phone is to ask the question. But just just raise your hand. We'll try to do this using progressive stock, but hopefully we'll get through everybody. Go ahead and take a few minutes before Kevin dials in. And if you, one more thing.
One plug I'd like to make. First of all, there was a book about this case that was published in 2012. It's not up to date because it was published in 2012, but it's very, very well done. It's called Scapegoat: The Chino Hills Murders and the Framing of Kevin Cooper. It's written by Pat O'Connor, a terrific writer about crime, and you can get it on Amazon or other places, but it really is a terrific page-turner of a book about how Kevin was framed. However, if you really want to read the final, at least most up-to-date thing, on Kevin's website, that is for both his organization's website and our media website, kevincooper.org or savekevincooper.org. You have the clemency petition itself. And if anybody feels like reading it, I like to think that it is also a page turner since I wrote it. But it really does have every fact, and it is not legalese, because clemency is not based upon case law and statutes. It's something where the governor's at his or her discretion. So if you have an interest, take a look, read it, and I think you'll find it compelling. And then last, the handouts that we have set out the ways in which Kevin was framed, and I would urge you to take a look at that, because it really does inform us about how these things go, about how evidence of innocence was destroyed. Many pieces of evidence were destroyed by the prosecution before they were turned over so that they could not be used to exonerate Kevin. How evidence was physically planted to try to frame him, and how evidence of false evidence was presented by the prosecution. And I can go through a number of those as we wait if you'd like. But these are the types of things that created this wrong, unjust conviction. And when you think about that, it wasn't decided on the facts. It was the case was decided by evidence that wasn't there, evidence that was planted, and false evidence that was given to the jury. And when you look at this case and you read about it, keep those things in mind, because that's how these things come about and how we end up having to fight for 32 years to try to undo them.
All right, so we're just going to wait for Kevin to call in. Go ahead and fill out that postcard. Send all your family and friends texts, emails, whatever you have to do. We really want people to get more information about this case, especially given that Kevin is next in line. And once the death penalty is resumed by our state, he very well could be one of the first. So thank you so much for being here again, and then we'll come back as soon as we have him call in.
Oh, it's only two.
Okay, great. Sure.
Is he calling you first, or is he calling me?
We'll find out. I think me.
I hope you.
Great question. It's a complicated answer. Because Kevin technically has
230
or more felony convictions based on the number of people who were killed here. The answer is yes. The governor, if he were going to commute the sentence or pardon it, would have to get the California Supreme Court's approval. However, he doesn't have to get their
We can announce it once he's done.
He still has to go through that process in order
And it is? I know. That should be fine. It's been working. All right, Kevin.
This is Global County. We have a prepaid call from an inmate at the California State Prison, San Quentin, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. To accept this call, say or dial now. Thank you for using Global Link.
Hi, Kevin. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, you are live.
Oh, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I stand for prison. First and foremost, I I want to thank each and every one of you. Before we have a conversation, and I answer any questions that you may have, I would first like to say something that has nothing to do about my case, but has everything to do with our collective struggle. This event today, to me, is really important because it's about unity. It's about bringing different people, different groups, and different organizations together for a common purpose. Unity. In a time when this country is more divided than ever, we need unity. When the late Frederick Douglass walked this earth, he stated that he would unite with anybody to do right and nobody to do wrong. I am of that same mentality that he was, and I hope that each of you may have the same mindset as well. By anybody, I mean different people, different religions, different sexual orientations, different politics, different jobs. No matter what it is that makes you your own unique, different self, we must unite at this most important time in the history of this country. Right. I believe that we are fighting for our survival as an oppressed people. I mean, I really do believe that. I mean, I don't have like a PhD or I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I'm a convicted dude on death row that these people is trying to murder. But the one thing I do have, or the two things I have, is common sense and intelligence. And it's intelligent and it makes common sense for us to come together, to work together, and to fight together for our collective human rights. And if we don't do it now, it may not ever get done again. So, with these few things said, I'd like to have this conversation and answer some questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. So yeah, I think if people want to line up here, they can just come up to the phone where Kevin will be able to hear you. Don't be shy. You want to start?
Hi, Kevin.
Oh, hi, Kevin.
Hello.
I think it'd be really great if you could just give us a brief overview of your case and what it's like for you to organize from within the walls of death row.
Well, as far as my case is concerned, I let Norman, my lead attorney, deal with all that. Over this prison phone, which is recorded, monitored, and they can take my words and flip them around and do whatever they want to do. As far as organizing from back here, it's hard. I mean, there are so many men in this prison, yet there are very few of us on the front line fighting for our rights, fighting not to be complicit in our own murder at the hands of the state. This is the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life, was to organize them back here, but it's something that must be done. And I know the mindset of James Baldwin when he said, whenever a victim articulates what it is to be a victim, he or she ceases to be a victim and they become a threat. I'm not these people's victim anymore. I refuse to be anybody's victim. And I will stand up and speak out for our collective human rights until these people murder. And I will try to get as many different people involved in this fight as possible.
Hey, Kevin, it's Alex again. I wanted to ask you, could you maybe talk to everybody about what sort of your day-to-day life is like?
My day-to-day life is about survival. It's about trying not to go insane. It's about not becoming a stereotype that society believes that we actually are being in this prison. It's about living on death row. It's about life on death row. It's an oxymoron. It's a contradiction, but it's a reality. Everything I do in this prison, I do for the most part in this cage that I'm forced to live in against my will. This cage is 4.5 feet wide by 11 feet long. And in it, I read, I write, I study, I paint, I write essays, articles. You know, I'm speaking to you right now from inside this cage. I eat here. Everything I do So I'm glad that I'm one of the people here that does so many different things, because it does keep you from literally going insane. But it's something that is so unreal that no matter how I describe it, it's something that you have to experience personally to actually believe that it's happening. This is not made for human beings. It's really not. It's not made for animals either. That's the best I can say about that.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, Kevin. It's your friend Carol.
Hey, Carl.
Hi. I want to ask you how you see your case and your situation in relation to the Black Lives Matter movement, because it seems to me that movement has opened up the country to even thinking about the history of this country and slavery and many, many aspects of the history of this country, and also criminal justice system. I'm curious how you see the relationship.
Truthfully, I see the relationship as this. The truth. It's a truth that America has long denied. It's a truth that is ignored. It's a truth that it will not acknowledge. You know, while I have to worry about an executioner back here strapping me down the gurney and torturing me with lethal poison, torturing me with lethal poison and murdering me here in the back end of the criminal justice system. On the front of the criminal justice system, black men who look just like me are being gunned down by the police on a regular basis all over this country. And all in between the front end to the back end of this criminal justice system, we are housed like slaves on the plantation. And this is something that America as a whole refuses to acknowledge. And they don't want to acknowledge it because it's the damn truth about what they do to us. So I'm glad that, just like I was glad that the Black Panthers came along and made their stand, and I'm glad that Black Lives Matter movement came along and made their stand, but it's not about groups making a stand, it's about individual people standing up and acknowledging this stuff and putting it into it. I don't care, throughout history, when you go back to Marcus Garvey and all back before them, you know, we've always made a stand. We always made a statement. We always told the truth. Malcolm X told the truth. Martin Luther King Jr. told the truth. Edgar Everett told the truth. You know, Fannie Homer told the truth. You people are all the way back in our history, and we've always had people tell the truth about this right there system. However, when the other side going to stand up and put it into it? This is why I believe that we must unite. You know, the same people who are trying to murder me, right, are the same people who are for voter suppression. They are against the LGBTQ community. They are against equal pay for equal work. They're against minorities of all kinds. They're against immigrants. They're against immigrants. They're against immigration. They're against government. All right. They're against a woman's right to choose. I mean, come on now. There's something wrong with a country where its leadership is against all of these things that better our lives. So, well, the Black Lives Matter has their place. It should be about them. It should be about these people putting in to this oppression that they're doing to us. And I'm glad they exist.
Yo, Kevin Cooper.
Yeah.
Here we be. My name is Big Diamond Dave. Get this recording. This is coming down to this beautiful auditorium. here at the main library in San Francisco. You're talking about probably 75, what'd you say, 100, more than 50 people here, is that right? We're doing something.
Excuse me, I cannot hear.
Okay, we're talking more than 50. We're talking more than 50 people here in this beautiful auditorium.
Yeah.
In that beautiful auditorium here at the centrally located at the San Francisco Public Library. And I was thinking Maria Abdul-Jamal, who back the kind of status tradition of finding ways to get out and talk to people, finding ways to communicate. And here we are, and I think there's a lot of brothers locked up with you there in San Quentin, and I like to see on a regular basis that voices from death row come here to the library, and word will get around, and people begin to connect, begin to do what you're saying with various groups of fellow human beings, get together and say, this is not right. This capital punishment is not right. People are being murdered. People are being slaughtered. We better get together. Do you hear me, Kevin? So let's get together and maybe for the first historical occasion to have somebody new, Kevin Cooper, talking from death row to the people here in the library. Let's keep it going on. Hey, socialists, democratic socialists who are sponsoring this, let's make it happen. Thank you.
And thank you. I heard someone say, and I thank you for saying that. That was good.
Hi, Kevin. This is Luma with the Freedom Socialist Party, and one of the things that makes me really proud today is that we have a program of getting our newspaper into prisons for prisoners for free. And I want to ask you to talk about the reality of political prisoners in the United States. You didn't start out necessarily as a political prisoner, except for the fact that you were imprisoned because of racism, but you've become an outstanding political critic of our system. And a lot of people don't think political prisoners exist in our country, and they do.
That's right. Okay, and the most famous is Maria Abdul-Jamal. I would like to say that, they act like political prisoners don't exist, and they do. I have never really seen myself as a political prisoner because when I came in here, I was more of a knucklehead, uneducated, miseducated black man, or black boy at that point in time. And I really didn't know up from down, left from right, or which way was up, or none of that. I had to learn that hard way through history, through books, through studying, through meeting different people from different organizations who showed me enough love to help me out. Well, they really helped me find those bearings and get myself together. So yes, political prisoners like Brother Peltier and Maria Abdul-Jamal and quite a few other, Marilyn Ruck was even a political prisoner when she was alive. You know, they didn't follow her out prison until she was getting ready to die. And it's important that people understand that when this government, when this country criticizes other countries,
you have 60 seconds remaining.
When this government over here criticizes countries around the world for having political prisoners but will not acknowledge their own, that's just more hypocrisy. And hypocrisy is this country's middle name. So political prisoners must be acknowledged. Until they're acknowledged, ain't nothing going to change. So let me hang up and call back before this cuts off.
All right, Kevin, see you in a second.
Okay.
While we have this break, there's a limit for each call, and sometimes it's half hour, sometimes it looks like 15 minutes this time. But Kevin will call back. And think about anything that you'd like to hear about, and even if you don't want to get up and say it, pass me a note and I'll go up and ask Kevin. He's got here, he's extremely articulate spokesperson for the people who have been oppressed by our prison system.
Hey, Kevin, you're back on.
This is Global County. You have a prepaid call from. And anyway, the California State Prison, San final and now. Thank you for listening. Global Heritage.
Okay.
Hey, Kevin, you're back on.
All right. This political prisoner issue is one that America has not dealt with in the history of this country. I mean, Native Americans like Geronimo were political prisoners way back then. Even working way, Walker's Garvey was a political prisoner. You know, and this country refuses to not just acknowledge political prisoners per se, but they even refuse to acknowledge going after people for their political views, because if they did, then that means this country is not about a democracy. Because in a democracy, you allow every different political views without being punished. Right. So if you're punished and if you're having political views, you're not dealing with a democracy, you're dealing with something else. And this country doesn't want to have to explain itself to the world. And the world is letting this country get away with it by not asking them questions. So, you know, I'm not one to have a lot of love for this country. Not the way it treats people. You know, no, not as forced people, not as political people, not as minority people, not as women. So that's the best way I can answer that question.
Hey, Kevin. Good afternoon, Kevin. How you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm listening. I was just passing through here, and I somehow I was led to this library to hear your situation, man. And I've been there before, and I know what you're talking about. But things like this, that you know, what I mean, I understand what you're saying. You know, my brother was killed here in San Francisco, was murdered. And the reason why I say that is because the person that did this was tried and convicted here in San Francisco by the court system here, and was found guilty by all 12 jurors. And he took his case to the appellate level recently, and it was denied. You know what I mean? But the thing is, I'm saying this to say that is that, you know, I understand your situation. There's a lot of brothers in there that in your nationality, my nationality, that are in prison right now for things that they have actually done. And I'm not saying that you did this crime, and if you didn't do that, you should be released. But there's a lot of people in there that have done this crime, hideous crimes that belong in there. You understand? And I'm saying that. Go ahead.
First of all, let me say I feel your pain, and I'm with you in spirit and all this. And I have never been one to say that people should not be punished for doing wrong.
Right.
I've never been. You know, I've never been on that because that's not right.
Right, and I'm not saying that to say nothing negative, nothing like that. You know, I respect what you're doing and everything, and my heart goes out to you. And I wish you the best of luck, and my prayers go out to you. And stay strong in what you're doing. And if I could help in anything, just like everybody else in the audience here, if you're innocent of this, we let you go free. You know what I mean? But
yes, thank you very much for your support. Appreciate it.
And God bless you, man. And stay strong, man.
Thank you.
Okay.
And you do the same. And like I get, I really am sorry for your loss, and I feel your pain. And my thing, and I would like to address what you just did. I have never been one to say that people who do wrong should not be punished, no matter who they are.
Right, I understand.
I am not for the death penalty, because the only people in this country who are on death row are poor. Right? This is a poor man's thing. A rich man's game in which the poor people pay the price. Every single person on death row across this country, for the most part, is poor. All right, and most of them who are poor are white. Now, but what they don't tell you is when they're talking about the execution of white people, and they say it so proudly to try to say it's not racist. What they don't tell you is that these white people that they proudly boast on executing are poor people. So if they did tell you that, then racism would have to leave and classism would jump in. And either way, it's not right. It's not right.
Right.
It's not morally right.
Right.
You know, it's not right again.
Right. It shouldn't be based on race, regardless. It should be based on a crime a person has done. If a person has done a crime, they should pay for what they've done. You understand? You know what I'm saying? And you don't get me wrong.
I do understand.
Don't get me wrong. I've done crime. I did my wrong too. Don't get me wrong. I've been in San Quentin. I've been on West Block. I've been there before. You know what I mean? And I know where you're coming from. That's why I had to come up here and say something to you, man, because I feel your pain. The victim as well.
Okay.
Because it's allows both sides.
I think we'll go to
And there are both sides to every story. But you cannot have a criminal justice system that calls itself fair, or a criminal justice system that calls itself just, when the only people who receive capital punishment are the people with no capital. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's a system that is wrong. I mean, I'm not trying to change anyone's beliefs. If they believe in capital punishment, well, that's their right to believe that, and I respect their right to believe. But on the other hand, you must understand that this is a historic and horrific crime against all of our humanity. Because they just don't motivate. They just don't strap you down to a gurney or a chair or a table or whatever else and take your life. They torture you before they do it. Not only do they torture you physically, and I'm speaking from experience, they torture you mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and then they experience it. They had me asking the same thing that Jesus Christ asked God when he was on that cross. God, why have you forsaken me? These people were doing all kinds of stupid stuff to me, to break me, so they could kill me, for no reason. So whether you believe in a death penalty or not, that's your thing. But nobody has the right to torture another human being.
That's right.
If I don't have the right to do it as a private citizen, then I'll be damned if the government has the right to do it because they're the government. And that's just my take on it. And they just ain't doing it to men, they're doing it to women too. Yeah. And I know in my heart, from what history tells me about women who have fought for equal rights for so damn long. And when they were fighting for equal rights, they were not fighting for getting strapped down to a gurney and having an equal amount of poison pumped into your body and tortured as equally as a man. That ain't what they were fighting for. They wasn't fighting for to get the same amount of electricity hit in their body. No. So how can people say they don't want women to have equal rights on one hand, but then give equal rights on the other hand when it comes to government?
Right.
This hypocrisy must come to an end, and we're the only ones that can bring it to an end.
Right.
So if it was just about taking somebody who killed somebody and say, okay, you killed them, and you have to give up your life, and so be it, bam, you did. That would be one thing, but this is not that thing. These are torturers. These are murderers. Anybody who's ever read a death certificate of a person executed, what is the method of execution? It says homicide. It don't say lethal injection. It don't say electricity. It don't say this or that. It says homicide because executions are homicide. So if it's wrong for us as private citizens to commit homicide, it's wrong for the government to commit homicide too. All things being equal in the United States of America.
Hi, Kevin. This is Victoria. And on that note of the government committing institutional homicide, in 2004, 14 years ago, you were so close to that moment. And you recently published an essay at the end of last month about how it's Black History Month, and you want us to do you a favor, which is that if we hear that you have been executed by the state of California, to remember the words of the Ninth Circuit Appeal Court Judge William Fletcher, where he said, he's on death row, Fletcher said, because the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department framed him. And you have a room of about 60 people with postcards to the governor. And if you could share with us, I know you've already given us so much motivation idea of what we need to be telling the governor and the state, but if you can tell us what message you want for us to walk out of this room, sharing with the governor and sharing with other people.
My message is, don't be a little coward, man. Stand up and do what's right. You know, too many times in this country, politicians turn a blind eye and let the wrong thing be done for what they believe is the right reason. This is why I have been so lucky to have, for the first time in the history of the state of California, 11 Ninth Circuit judges not let that happen. They stood up and they spoke up. They said something's wrong with this case. 5 of those justices said the state of California may be about to execute an innocent man. That has also never happened in the history of the death penalty in California or the history of the Ninth Circuit. So there's something, or a reason why these people are saying that. And if they can say that, then the governor can look at what they're saying and say there must be something wrong. Well, these people wouldn't have said this. And he must, as a moral man, if he has morals, at least look at this stuff and do something about it. If not, don't call yourself a moral man. Don't call yourself a leader. Call yourself a politician. It is my hope that everyone here will take it upon themselves in their own unique way, understanding my situation and understanding, after having read what you read about my case, that you will come up with the right words to speak your truth about my situation. I can't tell you what to say, but all I can tell you something needs to be said. I can't tell you what to do, but I can say that something needs to be done. And I thank you for saying and doing whatever it is that you do. Greatly appreciate it.
Hey, Kevin, it's Pat. How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
I'm doing all right. You've written incredible essays about the legacy of slavery, and I wonder if you'd share some of that with the audience.
I'm not hearing what you're saying.
The mic's right there?
Yeah.
That's because
Talking
I'm
to here.
talking to the wrong mic. You've written really well about the legacy of slavery and capital punishment, and I wonder if you'd share some of that with the audience.
Well, how can I say this? African Americans, black women, black children, have been under the threat of death ever since they met certain Europeans on the continent of Africa. Ever since they came across the Atlantic in the Middle Passage. Ever since they came to the shores of this country in 16.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Ever since they were placed on plantation. The main thing that kept black people in check through all this was the death penalty. It was legal then. It was one of those type things where it was used to make examples out of people so that other slaves couldn't get out of line. But this is how it has been in America throughout the history of this country. And whenever there were black people,
You have 60 seconds remaining.
or Native Americans, or even certain poor people, there was the death penalty. Used by the rich, used by the powerful on the weak, to keep other weak people in check. And as we went from chattel slavery to slavery by another name, that prison leasing system that happened after slavery during Reconstruction, and the death penalty was there too.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
So I'm gonna hang up and call back and finish.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
I'm told that there are some additional copies of Scapegoat in the back of the room. Is that correct? Okay. So if anyone wants to pick one up while you're here, this is the commercial that I'm doing while we're waiting.
This is Global County. We have a prepaid call from an inmate, the California State Prison, San Quentin, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. To accept this call, phone or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global County.
All right, Kevin, you're back on.
Okay. So my point in all of this is as long as you have this quote-unquote criminal justice system, you always have the death penalty. You know, and it goes hand in hand. We went from private slavery, which was back in the day, chattel slavery, to public slavery. This is, I'm in a public plantation right now. And the death penalty is just as alive and well here as it was then. And it's used on the same type of people now that it was back then. This is all part of America's history. This is why America doesn't want to give it up. This is more, the death penalty in America is more, been around longer than what they call apple pie and baseball and all that stuff. The death penalty is more American than that. The death penalty is something that these people act like they can't live without because it's always done to a certain people who are deemed unwanted, who are deemed expendable, who are deemed niggers, or niggers, or wetbacks, or chinks, or anything type of name that is offensive to us but makes those people feel more powerful and more better about themselves. This thing is wrong. This is our issue. It's just as been here just as long as it's been here longer than police brutality because the death penalty was around before the Reagan Commission. It's always been directed at us. And it's come time that this stuff gets over with. You can't have a country that says it's moving on into the future, but it's putting training along with the stuff from the past with it. Not like this. These prisons are built from the plantations of yesteryear. And everybody knows that if you look at the third amendment to the Constitution, it says all people who are duly convicted are still considered slaves. So every time a person gets convicted of a crime, they get to take a step back in time and they become a slave. And as a slave, they can do whatever they want to do, even execute you, torture you. And the most of those people out there don't give a damn. So I have to believe that as long as we allow this to happen, it's going to continue to happen. We have to bring an end to it. And I think we can if we get enough people on board. This is why unity is so important. Imagine what Frederick Douglass did back then when chattel slavery was at an all-time high. When the death penalty, when every time you look around, you see black people hang up on poles or their heads stuck on poles, you know, or they were being ravished in all different types of unthinkable ways. He said he would unite with anybody to do what's right, and nobody to do what's wrong. Meaning that he was unite with anybody to bring him into this madness. We have to have that same mentality, and I do. So thank you for asking that question. That was cool.
Hi, Kevin. This is Bonnie Weinstein, and I just want to say
Bonnie, how are you?
I'm so inspired to finally hear your voice.
That's the first time we've spoken.
Yes, it is. Yes, after all these years.
All these years.
Yeah.
And let me say this real quick. I always tell Carol, I enjoy reading you. Everything you write. It's the first article that I find in the social viewpoint. It's the first one I read. So get that right.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very, very inspired to hear that. Listen, I've seen a lot of your artwork, as much as I was had been able to see, and it's so expressive and powerful and beautiful.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And I was just wondering, what is the inspiration for your artwork? And, you know, how do you get into that space that you can do such beautiful work?
In here, I practice escapism when it comes to certain things, such as reading. I have to block everything, all the noise, and all the everything else that can get the person's way in prison, all the distractions. I have to block them off my mind so I can read a book. And the same goes with art. You know, I have to practice escapism so that I don't hear nothing, I don't see nobody, I don't get distracted. I just go into another world and I create in that something that is within me to create at that point in time. You know, it's not something that I can really put into words, but it's just something that I do. And again, to help me not go insane in this place. This is a madhouse. You know, a lot of the majority of inmates in here are on psychotropic drugs. You know, they get them 3 or 4 times a day. The prison gives them drugs to keep them sane so they can kill them, so they can murder them. You know, and I don't want that. Not for me. I want to go up like that. So my art is not necessarily an extension of myself. But then it helps me read this madness that I'm going through up in here. So thank you for answering that question.
Hi, Kevin, this is Gilbert. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for attending. I appreciate it.
Since we're in the public library here in San Francisco, I thought I'd ask what you're reading right now and what your favorite book or 2 books are.
All right. Well, I just finished reading a book called Locking Up Our Own by James Foreman Jr. And wow, it was a mind blow because I did not know that it was Black people who initiated the war on drugs. Black people in Washington, D.C. in the 60s and 70s, long before the crack epidemic came along. They were advocating for and passing laws on drugs against other Black people. And it just snowballed. And then the Fed got a hold of it and turned it into what it is now. And yeah, we did that to ourselves. And I've just started a book about Celia Sanchez, a female, my bad, Patricia, a woman revolutionary in Cuba. And who helped Che and Fidel and Raul overturn petition. And it's important that I learn about her because a person who I do consider a friend of mine named Rebecca had told me about her a long time ago. And she never sent me the book, but she told me about her. Then I read about her different little books that I would have on Cuba. So now Rebecca sent me the book, and every time I get ready to get people into it, something else pops up so I have to put it down. But that's my next read. Celia Sanchez, and it's pretty good. What was the last part of your question?
Oh, what's his favorite book?
And what's your favorite book?
Oh man, I've read so many books. I really couldn't tell you what my favorite book is. I don't know. You know, I don't look at books as favorites or not. I look at them as experiences. You know, I read not just to learn, but to experience what other people before me, because most of the books that I read are history books. Have experienced to help make this country what it is, good or bad. You know, it's an experience. So I've had a lot of wonderful experiences reading a lot of wonderful books.
Hi, Kevin. This is Linda Fox. And first I have to say,
Linda, how are you?
I'm good, Kevin.
Long time no see.
It has been a very long time. And my first job is to give you greetings from Armenia Cujo. I just spoke with him yesterday, and I told him I was going to be here, so he sends his very best. And I will tell him that next time we talk. And I wanted to tell you, I see such similarities between the two of you because
you're kind of in similar situations, and the two of you have somehow reached down and found a strength that I don't think either one of you ever made. Or if you have any insight into what it is about you that gives you, I mean, there are other innocent people up there, Kevin, who just don't have the heart for the battle. And, you know, I wonder what it is what's that resource that you found that keeps you.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Okay, yeah, I feel what you're saying. You know, it's a couple different things. First, all individuals are different, as we all know. I was lucky enough that when I came to this place, I didn't have no homeboys, you know, no gang member friends, because I'm not a gang member. Yeah. I'm not from the state. So I was able to take my life in a different direction. You know, instead of gangbanging, I was bookworm. I somehow got in the books, and I met people in those books I never knew they even existed. My ancestors, you know, and through them, I learned how to fight. But not only did that, I learned how to fight through them, I learned how to fight through the different people I met along the way. People, even people like from the campaign in the Death Penalty, who took me along and taught me how to fight, taught me how to speak. I mean, they did so much for me to help get me to where I am today. People like Carol and like Rebecca, and even my attorney Norman sends me books. You know, and somewhere in there, you know, I found a desire or a part of me that I didn't know I had, because I was never told about that part. It's the cultural part of me. It's the black part of me, the African American part of me, the part of me who saw what happened to my ancestors, who sees what happened to my fellow human beings, who sees what happened to Big Tookie Williams, who sees what happened to a whole lot of other people, and I'll be damned, and it almost happened to me, but I'll be damned if I'm going to be silent about it. Because I learned that I have a voice. And I learned how to use my voice, not misuse it, but to use it for the right thing. Just like Cujo. My brother, me and him used to be on the same yard talking about some of the same things for hours. And I miss it. But I wish there were more of us who could do that. So when you're on I went on a journey of self-discovery to find out that I was truly the animal, truly the stereotype, truly the nigga that these prosecutors down there, San Bernardino, portrayed me as back in 1983. You know? And I realized that I was uneducated. But damn, it didn't take me long to find out that they lied on me, even though in my heart I knew they did, because I don't miss it. But what they were doing was not just about innocence or not innocence. They were destroying my character. They were destroying my humanness. They made me into an animal, to a beast, and to a thing. And I had to find out if that was real. And I found out it wasn't through meeting my ancestors who fought long and hard with less to fight with than I had. They didn't have typewriters, they didn't have books. They just had the will to survive. They just knew to what's wrong, and they had to make it right or die trying. You know? So that's how I came into my own. And I've been lucky. I've met a lot of people here. People who refuse to let me give up on myself. Like my friend Crystal. She's a mom now, so I don't see her that much. But that woman went through hell with me in this joint. And she wouldn't let me give up. She wouldn't let me quit. You can tell me miracles happen, Casey. Keep fighting. As long as you fight for you, I'm going to fight for you too. You know, and she's a white woman telling me this. But it gave me fire to continue on with this fight. And so I've been lucky and I've been blessed. And I will never stop fighting. Because if I do go down, if these people do murder me, we're going to expose, like we have been exposing, all the things they did to get me.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
And that's real. So I'm going to hang up and call back before it cuts off.
So I think we'll probably just have about 15 minutes left before he runs out as well. So any last questions? Go ahead and get them up.
This is Global County. We have a prepaid call from. In India, the California State Prison, San Quentin, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. To accept this call, say or dial # now. Thank you for using Global County.
Okay. Hello?
Hi, Kevin. Evan here from DSA. Thanks for coming to speak to us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Very appreciate it.
So I just wanted to ask what it's like to talk to other inmates about your activism, about criminal justice reform, about racism in America. You know, what are people receptive to? What are the barriers to them understanding?
Same thing. The barriers to tell you who you are. I mean, we're all different. We all have different takes on things. And a lot of people tell me don't speak for them, and I don't speak for them. I speak for myself. And what they agree on that I say is cool, but what they disagree with I say, that's cool too, because I'm not speaking for them. But sometimes they get it in their head that because it's an inmate in prison speaks out. He's speaking for all other inmates, and I'm not. I would never do that to myself. I would never put myself in that position to have that type of repercussion. You know, do I speak to people? Some people. Can't speak to everybody because everybody don't want to hear the truth. A lot of these guys in here, and I hate to say this, but they are guilty and they don't give a damn about what we're doing. You know, they're trying to react as best they can while they can. You know, and it's they're involved in other things, they have other activities, they have other things that motivate them, and that's their right to do that. That's one of the reasons why I'm Cujo, because me and him, we were on not just a political thing, but we were on a cultural thing. We were trying to tell these brothers up here that come on with this black on black violence. How are we going to fight against the government who's mostly white, who's trying to kill black people, and then you got black people here fighting each other? You know, so, but everybody's not trying to hear that. You got gangbangers who ain't trying to hear that at all. You got other people who just don't give a damn. So it's hard in prison. But I've been doing this for so long that I have gotten certain respect from inmates because they understand my fight that I was tortured, murdered by this state. And that when I do speak, I speak from experience and I speak because I care. I care about them when they don't even care about themselves. You know, I try to make them understand that if they have self-respect, they have dignity, if they really care about themselves, then they must stand up and fight for themselves. And I said it's not easy to do, but I do it because people taught me to do it. You know, Carol has taught me a lot in her own unique way. She's made me more caring than anybody else I know. Because when I met her, I wasn't giving a damn about a whole lot of stuff. But through her humaneness, she made me start caring. So now I'm a little bit more patient with people who I was impatient with before. But I thank her and I thank myself for having the openness to hear her. Because a lot of people, they don't hear. Just like they don't see. And because they don't hear and don't see, they will never acknowledge or even attempt to look at what's being created. And so you can, you know, like that thing, you need a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. That's what it is like up in here.
Hi there.
Yeah. John, go ahead.
Oh, pardon me. Kevin, my name's Otto. I just want to say, first of all, it's an honor to speak to you. And I want to congratulate you for maintaining and pursuing your self-actualization in the face of such dehumanizing violence and terror. My question's brief. I just want to know if, other than the central issue of your clemency, Are there any issues of mistreatment, either of yourself in particular or prisoners in general at San Quentin, or procedural misconduct that you'd like the public to know about and act on?
I can't speak to anybody else's issues. And I know that sounds selfish or not, but I'm in prison, and there's always repercussions when you do that. And it's not from the staff, it's from the inmates. I didn't give you permission to speak to those people about what happened to me, and all this and that. I ain't got time for that because I'm fighting for my life. I can speak to myself and for myself.
What's called and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
About some of the things that have happened to me that my attorneys have documented, and we had to fight. I mean, one prison guard opened up the wrong exercise gate on purpose for me, so he was hoping that I would get attacked by different prison members. But some of my friends, they stood in front of the gate and wouldn't let those people out to do nothing to me. And then when we filed an agreement against this particular prison guard, we had to fight them all the way to Sacramento, and they did nothing. And there was another time, another officer, he tried to poison me. My packets of food that we get sent in, a lot of get sent in every 3 months. It disappeared. Then when it came back up, after I protested about it, it was all green in the inside from where he had opened stuff, and it was gold. Really, that's what the green was. And my point is that these things do happen. A lot of you guys, that's the police out there, you got messed up inmates here, you got tough correction officers that are messed up too. They hate me because of this case, or they hate me because I'm speaking out. And they hate me because I wasn't executed in 2004, because before me, everybody went over there. When they left, they came left in the body bag. I walked in and I'm the first one to walk out. So they hate me for that. I can speak to my own pain and suffering, but as for other people, man, they gotta speak for themselves. And I know that ain't what you're trying to hear. You got to be off there. I've seen men here get stabbed for being in somebody else's business. I ain't trying to get stabbed for being in nobody else's business. That's the reality of prison life.
Hey, Kevin, it's Rebecca. Can you hear me?
Hey, Rebecca, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad you're reading that book. You're reading the Celia Sanchez book. That's good. Hey, I wanted to bring up something that I hate. It's December 13th. It's a really dark anniversary, and it just passed recently. And that's the execution date of your very good friend and a lot of our friends, Tukey Williams. And, we think about what they put Big Tukey through, but you went through something too that night. Can you talk to us about what kind of torture they put you through the night they murdered your friend at San Quentin?
Yeah. Here's a situation like that. Whenever there's an execution, I relive what they did to me on February 9th, 2004. I mean, I relive it minute by minute, second by second, hour by hour. And what made this worse is because I never took it. I mean, I didn't know him as a member or co-father of a Crystal or gang member at all. And I met him on the basketball court. We used to play ball. And that's how our friendship grew. Just as two black men in prison, fighting to stop the system from killing us. The system was dead set on killing both of us. And through the years we became friends. And what drove me away about what they did with Tukey, because he asked me when I came back from what they did to me, he asked me to give him an update or a briefing on what they did to me, because he was expecting to go through the same thing. So I did. I told him what to expect from these people, the psychological things they're going to play, all the torture they're going to do to him. But we also thought that because he was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, that he was possibly the Schwarzenegger would do right by him. So I relived that whole thing of what they did to me. And then I found out what they did to him, and what they did to him, they had been doing to everybody else, which we know they was going to do that same thing to me. That torture. That torture stuff we could through drugs. And then when I listened to what Barbara Bennell told, told everybody. And then I heard the state response to her, telling her lying eyes did not see what her eyes actually saw. This man being tortured on that gurney. That's what the state said, that she was lying. She was a woman. She was just hysterical. Her eyes didn't see what her eyes actually saw.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
This is what these cold-blooded people said. So I lived all that, knowing that they did that to my friend, and knowing that that's what they were going to do to me. I think Big Took was number 12. It was only 13 people. I was supposed to be number 11. And I wasn't number 11 because I got that state. Another guy named Beardsley ended up being number 11. Big Took was number 12, and then Clash Royale was number 13. So all those dudes after me and before me were tortured by these people. That's why there's no execution now. They were tortured on that gurney with lethal poison. So if they did that to them, you know damn well they was going to do that to me. And I suffered bad. I mean, I had post-traumatic stress after his, so I had it after mine. Because I cared about that man. He's a black man like me. A poor black man in white America who these people was just want to do what they wanted to do, irregardless of the cost. Irregardless of what anybody else thought. Because they were about finality. Saying justice? What kind of justice is that? That's murder. That's torture. They want to go around the rest of the world, tell the rest of the world about you can't do this and you're violating somebody's human rights and you can't do that because you're wrong. And yet they do it every time they get a chance. And they're getting ready to restart this execution thing out here, and they're getting ready to start torturing people. If you don't think they are, then I'm going to ask you this question. What you been smoking? That's what they want to do.
Hi, Kevin. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Evan. First off, I just want to thank you, as everybody else did, for just your incredibly brave organizing in the face of execution. And I kind of wanted to ask you, related to that, just in your experience, like what is the psychological impact of knowing that you're slated for execution, and sort of how do you work through that?
Try not to think about it, right? Try not to think about it. I try not to think about it. There's a simple thing you do is go to your attorney all the time on the drug court. I don't know so much. Well, they tell me, man, I got a wife. I can't even take a shot about you coming by us. Leave me alone. So it was funny, but it's the truth. You don't think about it. You do all these other things to try to get yourself to a point where that's the last thing you think about. Stay busy. I stay busy. I'm always busy up in here. I mean, I am so busy between doing the goods like this, with all my art, or writing my memoir, and writing my essays. I mean, this whatever I'm doing, I stay busy. I work out a lot. I play a lot of basketball. At 60 years old, I'm still out there hooping with the youngsters, and they don't understand why. How old man can do that? Because I'm trying to do what you just asked. Not deal with this shit psychologically, and then have a psychological toll on me. See, one thing about what I went through before, I now have experience to a degree. So I know not to get this psychological stuff into me. I know how to control it. I know how the best way to control it is to stay busy and not think about it. Do I get down every once in a while and rethink about what they did to me? Yes, they did yesterday. Because yesterday was February the 9th. And every minute of that day, I feel like it was 14 years ago. Every minute, I know exactly where I was. All of it.
Hey, Kevin.
I think that
Oh, sorry. This is Alex again. I just want to say, we're starting to come to the end of the time here, so I wanted to give you a chance if you had any last words for everybody here.
Oh, okay. First and foremost, I thank each and every one of you for attending this event. I really, really do. I really appreciate it, and I hope that we can build a movement and maintain it and grow it, where all nations can come together. All forward, no matter what happens to me, we have to be there for each other. And that's what I want to do. I want us to be there for each other. If nobody else got our back, we got.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
I said that again. If nobody else has our back, we have each other's back. Peace out, and thank you again.
All right, thank you again so much for coming. We do have a couple of quick announcements, a few from people who've co-sponsored this event. So this event was co-sponsored by Freedom Socialist Party, and they're having a screening of the James Baldwin documentary on Saturday, February 24th at New Valencia Hall, 747 Polk Street. And Death Penalty Focus is having several upcoming events, and you should, if you're interested in the death penalty, check them out at deathpenalty.org. Again, for Kevin Cooper, now that you've heard from him, if you want to do something to help his case, the best thing you can do is write to the governor, write to that postcard. We'll make sure it's delivered. Tell all your friends. If you go to SaveKevinCooper.org, you can see some of his artwork that was talked about on the call. The petition's on there as well. There's an online petition for people who weren't here. You can tell all your friends and your family to go and sign up. And I really do encourage everybody here to stay connected to this case and follow it and make sure that we don't let the enthusiasm for clemency die, because it's really crucial, especially right now in these last few months. We really, really need to get the energy up and make sure that Governor Brown knows that there are a lot of people in his state who care about this issue, who care about Kevin Cooper and care about making sure that justice is done. And again, what we want is for Kevin to be given a chance to prove his innocence. And that's really the key. That what the ask is, we want to make sure that justice is served. This is not a humanitarian ask. It's not an ask for a pardon for no reason. This is really about giving Kevin a chance to prove his innocence. And the only way we're going to be able to do it is if there is a groundswell of support for this, and that the governor can see that his constituents want justice to be done in this case. And it's really up to us, as Kevin said, that we have to have each other's backs, and we have to have Kevin's back. So please, please, please fill out those postcards. Tell all your friends. Norm, if you have anything else to add. Otherwise, on your way out, just hand over those postcards. We'll make sure that they get to the governor and sign the petition on the laptop in the back.
Keep those cards and letters going to the governor's office. That would really help. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Right. Good job, Norm. Thank you. Audio's a little better this time. Yeah, it was much better.